Let's just take a breath for a moment. Let's take another breath. The theme this month is consistency. And my topic today is feasting on the affirmative. Feasting on the affirmative. Just like we have a physical diet, so we also have a mental diet. We have an emotional diet. We have a spiritual diet. And just as your physical well being is so greatly and mostly determined by what it is that you feed it, by what you put into it, by what you keep subjecting it to, such it is with your mental health, such it is with your emotional health, with your spiritual health. And we need to be as conscious and deliberate in all of these other realms as we are with our physical health, our economic health, our political health. I can go on and on and on. The bottom line here is, what do you keep subjecting it to? What do you keep taking in? Where is the focus of your attention? Newsflash. You don't actually get what you pray for. You get what you put your attention on. You don't really get what you pray for. You get what you put your attention on. If you put your attention on your prayers, it starts to feel like the prayers are in fact answered. But most of us are inconsistent, where we're praying for one thing or saying that we're going over here, but our actions, our thoughts, our words, indeed, are contrary to that. Really listen to what I'm saying. We manifest whatever it is that has the focus of our attention. This attention is both conscious and unconscious. Conscious and unconscious. It's not just what we think about. Perhaps a better way to say it, we manifest what we contemplate. See, the contemplation is at a deeper level. For example, you could be looking at something on, say, the computer screen or the television, or even right now, looking at this. But the backdrop of your mind is something else. It's the bills. It's what are you going to do with the kids? It's what's going on in the social political arena. It's this worry or that thing. And the consistency of that drums up an energy field within us. The consistency of that, whatever it is that we are contemplating, becomes our vibratory frequency. You know how that is when you are around people and you don't know the particular uh, uh, subject matter that they're contemplating, but you know they're worried. You know they're fearful. You can feel the upset. You can feel the dis-ease. You can feel the agitation. Listen to what I'm saying. Just because you're not articulating it, just because you're not sharing it, just because you're not giving it voice or putting it into words, doesn't mean it's staying inside of you. It doesn't stay, nothing stays inside of us. We are energetic beings, we are vibratory frequencies. So, whatever it is that we're contemplating, we're emitting. We're emitting. It's going out into the ethers. And here's the insidious thing about this: we are not isolated individuals. We're not. We're energetic beings that are all resonating with one another. So, just as what happens in our brain with the neural synapses, where the thoughts that fire together, wire together, and create networks of synapses and connectivity literally in our brains, so it happens out in the collective. So it happens with emotions. So it happens with everything else. That 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 emotions that fire together, wire together. Belief systems that fire together, wire together. Hope and beauty and faith that fires together, wires together. Creates a network of sustainability that's there. But what are you starting with? What are you starting with? Just like if you were to go to somebody's home and you were to flip open the cabinets and you were to flip open the refrigerator and look all in the pantry and everything else and see, what is this person's diet? What are these things that they are consuming? Are there fresh fruits and vegetables that are there? Is there a lot of sugary stuff that's there? Is there a balance of the kinds of nutrients and things that really need to be there? Or are there big deficits? Are there over amounts of certain kinds of things, fried foods, fatty foods, like whatever those things are? And such it is with you. If somebody were to look at your conversations, like if they could just take everything you said throughout the day and transcribe it, if they could eavesdrop in on your phone calls, if they could read your emails, if they could track all your social media and all of the things that you are consuming, if they could take a look at your log of everything you looked at online and all the movies that you watched and all the books that you read and all of the input that you were getting from outside and were taking in, what are they going to find? What are they going to find? And I invite each and every one of us to do that kind of an inventory. Do that inventory. Inadvertently, most of us are feasting on the things we don't even want. Listen to what I'm saying. We are overly absorbed with, consumed by, obsessed with, projecting out, being involved and engaged with the things we don't even like or want. We're giving more attention to the pain than the vision. Pain pushes until vision pulls. So we're feasting to feast. You know, you lay the table out and there's an abundance. There's a whole lot of it. That's the menu. And we invite people to the party. And it doesn't have to be a physical table. Zoom's a new table. It's a new table. And we can actually get more people around that table. And what are we cooking up? And what are we serving up? We're filling up for sure. oversaturated even. But what have you just consumed? Is it more life giving? Is it more life sustaining? I'm not saying walk around with the, kind of Pollyannish, everything's fine, everything's beautiful. I'm saying have a balance. Have a balance. The pain is like a compass needle. It points you in the direction of the healing. Or as the Buddhists say, it's like a finger pointing towards the moon. Don't get stuck on the finger. Don't get stuck on the finger. Just looking at the compass needle going north is interesting, but unless you move north, you're just sitting there obsessing with the needle and the compass. What are we feasting on? Feast on the affirmative. Feast on the life-giving. Now, what this is going to mean is some choices. It's going to mean that there's some places you don't visit as much. It's going to mean there's some conversations you don't engage in as much. It's going to mean there's some people you don't even talk to as much. Listen to what I'm saying. If you are really serious about feasting on the affirmative, you got to bust yourself. Before you even get too deep off into your sad sob story or the pity thing, I know in my mind my deepest intent by who I tell the story to. I'm just saying. I already know the ones that are going to co-sign and get all down in the mud there with, ooh, girl, yeah, I know that's right. Yeah, you know what happened to me? Yeah, And we just having like a good old party. Good old party with it. And I know other people that are going to listen very quietly. Yeah, sure. I get why you. Yeah, okay. Now, are you done? Do you have anything else you got to say? Okay, now, let's move on to the truth. Girl, you know you're bigger than that. You know God is in control. What's your vision? What do you want? How do we uplift this situation right now? Anybody got time for that? And if you're really lucky, you got some friends like mine where you can do both. Where when you get into that, you can't even stay there too long. Because somebody gonna bust it. So that your pity party people won't even stay there with you too long. That even your pity party people, after you get it out, you let it out, it's all really cathartic and all the rest of that. Now, boom, let's go up in consciousness. Boom, let's not stay there. You get to choose where you resonate. When you eat junk food, your energy goes down. You don't have the vitality that you need to live and to get the things done that you want to get done. It's the same thing if we're busy eating a lot of emotional and spiritual junk food, it saps and zaps your energy. And when your energy gets sapped and zapped, you know what? Our immune system goes down. When do you keep up your immune system? You can't wait till you get sick to try to like suddenly get your immune system together. You keep up your immune system with a consistency of practice. You need a balance of things. You need food. You need exercise. You need rest. You don't necessarily need them all in the same combination, but they are not substitutable. You need them all. And such as it is with your spiritual well-being, keeping up your spiritual immune system, you need it all. You need it all. You need to be in quiet, contemplative contemplation. Yes. And you need to get off your duff and do something. You need to be of service. Make a contribution. Share, be concerned. There's times to be quiet, and there's times to be expressive. There's a balance. There's a balance between it all. I'm sorry. I'm hearing in my head this endless argument between my parents. They were married for 65 years, and before my father passed away, and my whole life I heard the same argument. So my father was raised primarily by his grandmother who lived next door to him, Bertha Johnson. So Bertha, I loved her. I knew her, like growing up, and she had been Methodist. So even though my dad was more Baptist when I was, growing up with him, he was raised Methodist. And he didn't like my mother's church at all. He didn't like these holy rollers, these evangelical Pentecostals making all this noise and hooping and hollering all over the place. And both of them are choosing scripture from the Bible, right? So my dad would be, Dolores, it says, the Lord is in his holy temple. Be quiet. Be quiet. Have silence before him. Have silence. And my mother, make a joyful noise unto the Lord and praise him all ye with the trumpets and the cymbals and the... And it's like, yes. It's both. And whatever your balance is fine. But the point is, where does it lead you? I remember when I first started taking the metaphysical classes, and I spent a lot of my life angry. I mean, a lot of it angry. And those first years when I was taking the fundamentals classes and whatnot, I was in this big public lawsuit, really big. It wound up setting precedent for the inclusion of sexual orientation in the California Civil Rights Bill. It's in the law books. But what I didn't realize that it was the national test case for the right to be out publicly. Didn't realize that. Gloria Allred did, though, who was our attorney. Big media thing. So the whole time I'm taking the classes, I'm going through this. And right when it ended, I started the practitioner training. So I was mad. There was a lot of anger that was in there. But I remember when I finally kind of got it, that this way of claiming my anger, and do I have a right to my anger and to my frustration and to, my desire to be an activist and all this and that. A lot of pain pushing as well as vision pulling. And I remember when I finally got it. And it was that inner voice that I wasn't recognizing so much as the inner voice, but something said to me, anything that contradicts the fundamental harmony of life does not belong to you. Anything that contradicts the fundamental harmony of life does not belong to you. You may have it, but it's not yours. And the image that I was given was it's like a flea on a dog. Flick off the fleas. But don't get it be confused with it being you. An example I often use is that difference between Spanish and English in its verbs of being. How in Spanish, its more literal translation is I have these things. I have hunger. I have this age. But it isn't I am that. I have it, and then I won't. But in our English language, we become what we have. And that's not a mistake. It's a colonialistic language. That's not a mistake. That you are what you have, which winds up creating these interesting kind of mental caste systems that we live in, that we have to break out of. It doesn't matter what you've been subjected to. That can be your experience. But the truth of your being is not impacted by that. I don't care what's happened to you. You have never been abused. The real you has never been raped or left or abandoned or abused. Not the real you. The real you is transcendent of that. The real you has gone through that as a human circumstance and a condition, and your experience ultimately is going to be how much you identify with the part of your humanity that went through that, or the spiritual essence of you that is transcendent of that. That then becomes your experience. That's your experience. That's all therapy does. You can't unring the bell. What therapy does, what recovery does, is it takes you back to the beginning. It takes you back to the beginning to realize you're not what's happened to you. You're not what you've done. That there's a you in there. I don't care how much you've drunk or drank. It doesn't matter how much you messed up. There's a you. There's a you. And that fierce inventory is the willingness to take a look at all of the ways that you've missed the mark in the effort to reclaim the truth of the transcendent you. You're not just taking the inventory to beat yourself up with and to say, oh, here's this list of all these bad things that I've done. It's to say, I can do better than this. This is not who I am. I owe it to myself, and I owe it to all these other people to be the more transcendent me. And that it's never too late. It's never too late. Do you feast on your mistakes? Or do you feast on your possibilities? Sow in the inner, sow in the outer, sow in the micro, sow in the macro. Everything that I am saying here about you personally is also true about us collectively in society. It's the exact same stuff. You can't heal without doing your inventory. And this is the mistake that we're making now, where so many people don't want to do the collective inventory. because they are afraid that at the end of that inventory, they're going to be the inventory. And their own dignity, their own self-esteem doesn't want them to go there because something within them knows they're better than that. See, there's this cognitive dissonance that takes place. The cognitive dissonance is where you can't hold contradictory thoughts. So your brain is going to try to work it out. So if I don't like black people and you're black and I like you, I'm in a pickle. So there's only one or two things that can really happen here, and gradations within them. Either I got to change my mind and realize that black people aren't as bad as I thought that they were, or you're not as black as the rest of them. And that gives my mind a little like wiggle room to still hold on to my prejudice against black people and like you in spite of the fact that you're black. Our minds want us to be the good guy. We're just wired that way. And that's okay. They want us to be the good guy. But that desire to be the good guy, from an ego standpoint, will make us have blinders. We're unwilling to see anything that contradicts that. And what we invite in our spiritual tradition here, we call it standing in the end. Standing in the end. They're both true. There's a personal truth and a spiritual truth. Yeah, you drank and you messed up. Yeah, that really went down. You can't unring that bell. And it's not the last word. It's not all that there is about you. But which is the real you? See, if you think that this one who messed up is the real you, then you're busy trying to squish your sense of spirituality and transcendence into this little box. But if you realize that the vastness of your being is really this spiritual you, and that's what you keep affirming, and that's what you keep feasting on, then you can see where all of these ways in which you miss the mark fit in there. You can start to have compassion. You can start to see that you were just inconsistent. You were just inconsistent. That you failed to recognize. That's what sin literally means. Missing the mark. We pay so much attention to the specific thing that happened, but the big sin, the offense, is having missed the mark to who you are, to not understanding who you are as a spiritual being. And when you don't know that, then you do a whole bunch of things that don't reflect it because you don't see it. So what do we do now? What do we do? Remember that pity party that I was talking about? Remember that co-signing thing? You don't want to co-sign with each other on how bad and negative and worthless they are. And you don't want to do that collectively either. We have the capacity to stand in this end. We have the capacity to look at this fierce inventory because we missed the mark on a whole lot of things. And we need to keep feasting on that potentiality that we have. We need to keep breaking through all of these old habit patterns, all of these old stories, and keep remembering the oneness of us all. Keep remembering we are more than this. To keep remembering that no matter what it is that we've done in the past, we have a potential to do better and to do more. Forgive us our debts. These debts are these offenses. Literally, it's an offense in which reparations are obligatory. Linguistically speaking, in that Lord's Prayer. Breathe this in. Can you feast on the affirmative about your so-called enemies? Can you feast on the affirmative of the ones that you love? Therein is our answer. We become blind. Whatever it is you have your attention focused on, that's all you see. And just like you don't want other people to look at you as though you're just the mistakes that you've made in the past. You know how hard that is when people are just locked into a certain image of you. And that's why we can't get anywhere on any of the healing that we need to do on a social political level, because that's the fear. This fear that all these different sides have, that the only thing that you're going to see about me are the mistakes that have been made. My name won't be safe in your mouth. So in order to maintain some shred of dignity, I can't even let myself hear your assessment of me because it's not going to include anything good. And I'm not going to let your negative assessment be the last word about me. So I'm just going to hanker down on what's good about me and not even listen to the other stuff. Because it's not going to come out of your mouth. Just breathe that in for a moment. Be consistent. Be consistent. Be consistent. If you're using the spiritual principles for your health, use them for your finances. If you're using it for your finances, use it for your relationships. Be consistent. If you're practicing the stuff in the micro, practice it in the macro. If you practice it in your house, practice it about the White House. Just be consistent. If you are looking through the veils of appearances, and there's some people that you're willing to still see some good in spite of all the things that they've done, be consistent. Be willing to see through the good in everybody. And even if all that you can get to is that they are a spiritual being, that's enough. That's enough. Just start there. Just start there. And if you didn't do any more, then see all your adversaries as spiritual beings equal to you under the eyes of God, loved for, cared about just as much. And if you can't do anything more than that, we will have the revolution that we need to have. We will make a giant step towards that beloved community. If I look through your stuff, can I tell that's what you believe? What are you feasting on?